In this video I'm going to show you how to create a system where you can update information from a user form and then save it to a database. So what's nice about this, every time you amend something, you can also do that, which we'll show you in the next example. But in this one, you're physically just going to create new information and save it to the end of that database every single time. So obviously it will change every time, so every time you save it, the row will be more. So we're going to do all of that. So the first thing is we need to save this sheet, and let's call it database create, and we need to save it as a macro enabled workbook, otherwise it won't work. Then save. So let's create our database. We can say we've got a number, name, surname, and then we can say we also need a country. So I'm just going to freeze the panes to make it look better. It's going to make it bold. So let's first do the basic one. We can also rename this to say database. So let's create a basic user form. So I'm going to say insert user form. I'm going to call this user form database, and the caption is going to be add record. Okay. Remember, your caption is what's on this user form. So you have to create a button. It's going to say save. So when we click this button, it's going to save to the database. So that's where your biggest thing is going to come in. We have to create 3 labels, actually 4 labels, because that's the amount of data we need to update, because otherwise the user won't know what to do. So the first label is going to be the number. The second label is going to be the name. The next one is going to be the surname, and the last one will be the country. So the label just explains to the user what to actually do. Then we need to include text boxes. I'm going to create the first one. Then we're going to say copy and paste just to know it's the exact size. Copy and paste again, and then copy and paste again. So now we've got our 4 text boxes. We know what's the name's going to be. Let's increase this a bit, and we can save it. So where do we need this information to go? Remember, the best way to do this is you need to take it to a cell defined name. So let's go define some names somewhere. So I'm going to do it there. So the first one I'm going to call number. I'm just clicking back again to make sure it's there. This one I'm going to call name. This one's surname. So every time you do it, just go back and just make sure it's there. And the last one we can call country. So just when we scroll through, you can see at the top it's now named like that. So if I go back to my code, so this one, the control source will be number. This one will be name, because it identifies what the name now is, because we've used cell name defining to actually name it. So every time we include something, it's going to put it in there. So let's go test this quickly. So first we need to open this user form. How do we do this now? There's certain actions you can do. I'm going to include a button. So when I click this button, it will open the user form. So I'm just going to stop it again, and let's just rename. So open. Just going to make this a bit bigger so that this looks better. Let's edit this and say open. So now this one will open it. So what's the code for this? We're just going to say database show, because this is our name of our user form. So let's go test that. Open, and there we are. So number, we can say 1, name, we can say Ben. Surname, let's say Alex. And country, let's make it Ghana. So obviously save won't work yet because we haven't done it. So if we just click OK, I'm just going to move this open to here. Now we can see. So this is the information that we've just created. So now, how do we, because the next step would be when we click on save, it needs to take this data and go put it there. So the standard code to start off with is just going to say copy this. So let's record a basic macro just to get the code. So I'm just going to select that. I'm going to say copy. I'm going to stand there. I'm going to go to paste special. I'm going to say value. So let's just stop this and see how that goes. This code looks. Module 1. So this is the standard code. So this I can go copy and save. So every time I click on save, it's just going to basically do that. So if I say open and I change this to 2 and I say save, it will do that. So 3, it will save it there. But the problem we've got now is that every time we're doing that, it's going to do it on the same line. So the other problem that we've just seen is that when we click on save, we also need to hide the user form. So the user form is called database. So let's hide it. So how do you change this? Because this is the problem. Currently it's selecting F1 to I1. So that will always be there, so that's fine. But the next step is we're selecting range A2, which is there. So we need to tell the program that where's the next available open space. So you can do that with a count A formula. So I'm going to say equals count A. I'm going to select that range. So that's 2. So we can't go put this information in 2. We need to put this information in 2 plus 1. So the next available space is there. So if I do a 5 there, it's going to be 4. So now this we can also name something. Let's name this count. So there we can see the name is there. So how do we do this? So now we've named the range. We can say this, and then we include range count. So now it's going to go and say, when we've copied this information, go to range A, and whatever is this range, range count. So every time it goes here, it will effectively add another 1. So let's go test this. So if I say open, I save this. So there, we've saved it there. So every time I save this, you can see this increases, so the code will increase it. So that is how you add to a database. There's different ways of doing this. You can use offset, for example, to get information in. I prefer this method, and I've just seen over time, it just gives you a better result. The other way, which you can also do now, instead of putting numbers there, you could use the count A formula to count automatically for you. So you can use that, and you just fix the first one there. Just say -1. And then what we do here, I can say if this is equal to a space, then make it a space, otherwise do that formula for me. So now we can copy that down as far as we want. But now the problem is we need to make sure that the count there goes to the actual place, because now we've got formulas there, so this count will include the formulas for me. So can you see we need to change this now, because if we're going to say save now, it's going to take this and override it. So we need to go change this whole thing. So if I go back to my database, I'm not going to need the number anymore, so let's delete that. So now we know that that won't be updated anymore. But when we click on save, it can't start at F, because F has got the number. It needs to start at G. So this we can take out. So let's go change that to G. And then when we paste, it needs to start at range B. So let's go test this. So if I say open and I save, so can you see every time we put it in? Now this automatic numbering method, which I've shown you in the advanced course, works brilliantly. So every time I save this, the numbers get updated automatically. Plus you can save as much as you want. So it's a nice tool to use. You can even put some if formulas in here to say before you save, go check if there's duplications. So let's go do that. So first, we've got the first bin. So now I want to do a VLOOKUP. I want to see if that bin is actually there. So you can do you can even combine all of this and check all of this there. I'm just going to check bin for now. It's the same principle. So now it's there. So then we're going to put this into an if-is error formula. So if it's there, it's not going to be an error. So it's either 1 or 2. So in this case it's a 2 because it's there. So now we can write an if formula to say, if we click on save and this value is 2, so let's make this error. So if this error cell of us is 2, then we can't do this. So how do we do this? Let's go to database, save. So now we can say, if range error is equal to 2, then. So if now we know this is an error, we know it's duplicated. We can do a message box that say already in database. So it's very simplistic. Else we can actually then just do the and here we can end it. So we can actually keep the user form open if it's already there. So let's go see if this works. I'm going to say open, going to save it, already in database. So it doesn't even close the user form, because the closing of the user form is done when it's actually successful. So if we say bin1 save, it will then save. But now if we want to say bin again, it's just going to tell us it's not there. So there's a few very interesting principles which you can embed here. You can use some of these formulas to be able to do this. And the count A formula is very important. And obviously, if you want to do some error checking, you can also do it like that. So that's just a few examples of how do you create something that's actually checking your stuff as well. So it's a very nice and handy program to use.